right, so we're moving along here. We're just kind of plugging along here. We're in a LinkedIn Live-a-thon, guys, and we're reaching kind of, we've got, I think, about 2 more hours in our broadcast here. And I'm sure we've had folks coming in today, Claire, and leaving and maybe eating lunch and doing their laundry. Maybe they've got their phone on in the background. And we're kind of been going back and forth with topics. We've been talking about maybe moving into entrepreneurship. We've been talking about mature workers and just a lot of different areas for people that are using LinkedIn for a career search or maybe a career transition. And this is a big topic. We're talking about now resume and cover letters, wins, fails, tips, and more. And I just got a little pop-up message that there's some issues with the stream on LinkedIn. I think some people might be moving over to YouTube or to Facebook. My stream is still going, so it'll be in the playback. So we're just going to keep going with this, Claire. But if you could start us off, tell us a little bit about who you are and what your business is all about.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you so much. I did get a notification as well. I wonder if I don't know if there's a time limit on LinkedIn Lives. I'm new to Lives, so.
I don't know. I'm hoping I broke LinkedIn with this live stream. I don't know. I mean, that would be an accomplishment I would put in my experience section.
Yes.
But the stream is still going on Facebook and on YouTube. So like I said, if it doesn't make its way to LinkedIn, I will make sure to get it to folks later on.
Okay, sounds great. Well, let's keep rolling. So first of all, I wanted to thank you so much, Brenda, because this is an incredible day you've put together. I know for myself in my career, I have just greatly benefited from people who have gone before me, much smarter than me, further in business than I have been, and them reaching out and generously sharing their time and their expertise with me has been invaluable. So you doing that and making this platform and this day for everybody, for job seekers, is so incredibly generous. And I hope that everyone takes a ton away from today. There is so much wisdom here. And Susan, I mean, I could tell, Susan, you could talk about LinkedIn for years. I mean, you've got a ton of actionable tips. So this has just been a really incredible day. So I thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was so happy to see the strong response from people. I just knew so many people were in a position right now where they're struggling with finding a job or being in career transition. And I kind of said, how can I use what I have to help people beyond the platforms that I'm doing? I'm like, well, what if I brought in other speakers? And what if I did this on a Saturday? So I was really happy. You were the one of the folks that reached out to me and said, hey, can I come on? And I said, what do you want to speak about? And you said, well, how about the resume session? So tell us, what's your background and is this part of what you do? Is this your business now? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So, hello, everybody. My name is Claire Davis, and if we haven't met yet, I'm the owner and founder of Traction Resume. And so I help senior and executive leaders get better jobs and make more money by equipping them with outstanding cover letters, LinkedIn profiles, and resumes. So today I'm here to share, wins, fails, the good and the bad of resumes and cover letters with you specifically. But I resonate with you because a lot of my clients will say, Claire, I haven't written a resume in 30 years. And now I find myself unemployed. Or, hey, Claire, oil and gas is really tumultuous right now. I need to pivot out of this, but I don't even know where to start. Or I have a lot of accomplishments and I just need to understand how to position myself. And I don't even know how to do that without sounding like I'm bragging and it's uncomfortable. So resumes and cover letters can be challenging, but they're so critical. And I feel like this is such a critical conversation to have today, especially with 2020 and 2021 happening. And a lot of people finding themselves in the precarious situation of being laid off. So, if you've ever worked with me or you've seen my content, you'll know I am all about action and a little more action than theory. So if it's okay with you today, I would really love to do a couple of exercises so people who are listening today can walk away with an actually refreshed resume with a couple exercises I'd like to do right here live. So if that sounds really good, if anybody is hearing this, can you put like a 3 in the comments and be like, yes, I'm on board. I want to upgrade today.
While we're waiting on that comment, if you guys saw me leaning over, you're like, what is she doing over there? Well, LinkedIn, it just stopped broadcasting. And I actually got a text message from someone saying it stopped at the end of Susan's session. So it actually it stopped before we started, but I just went over and I posted, I've got another laptop going over here because this is what we do as entrepreneurs. We're always thinking of backup plans, right?
Yes.
So I've got my second laptop going and I said, continue watching us live on YouTube. So hopefully folks are finding us on YouTube. And look, I'm seeing now people like Crystal went over there, Fran. I don't know, guys, if we broke LinkedIn, I don't know if Claire and I like broke the internet today or what. So welcome back. We've been here all along. And the good thing is the stream didn't start. So I love StreamYard as a platform because basically it hosts us and then it pushes us out to the platforms. So there wasn't any disruption for us. When you guys get the playback links for me, what I'm doing is I'm chunking out every session as a separate YouTube, and I will pull it and then I will send you the playback link. So I see Francis is saying it ended at 4 hours exactly. And I'm curious if it was a time limit. I haven't seen it. And I saw some guys doing like a live-a-thon a while ago, and I think they were jumping on different streams. So that might be it.
That could be it.
I don't know if I can try to remove LinkedIn and try to restream it. I'll try that. But yeah, go ahead, Claire, if you want to make this a workshop. And I'm going to put myself into a lower video here. I'll let you have the floor, and then I'll come back in again at the end and we'll do Q&A.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, that's so true about being an entrepreneur. It's always keeping all the balls in the air, and then when one totally goes missing, it's grab that extra computer, or jump on your iPad, or do it from your phone. So thanks so much. Oh goodness. So anyway, so before we begin, you guys, if this sounds good to you, if you want to get some real updates to your resume today, I'm going to invite you right now to go find your resume and go find your current cover letter so that we can workshop this together. So while you're doing that, you're grabbing your resume, you're pulling it down from your files on Word, or you've got an actual printed version, and grab a pen. I'm going to tell you a cautionary tale. So I'm going to tell you a cautionary tale because I feel it resonates with a lot of us who are probably here today. So I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was in FedEx. I was working in medical sales. And at the time, I was collecting tissue samples. So I was running to FedEx on a Friday because I was trying to get something into the mail so this woman could get results on her cancer by the weekend. So I'm standing there. Things are going great at business. I opened up a new territory that was above my pay grade. I had great relationships with my clients. I was fresh off a killer meeting, and things were like clicking on all fronts. So like, you guys, put a 5 in the comments if you've been there. You've been like clicking on all fronts, and then the second shoe drops. So I'm standing there in FedEx, and I get a call from my boss, and she says, Claire, I have some bad news. Unfortunately, we're downsizing and your position has been eliminated, along with, unfortunately, many others. And so I immediately froze and thought, can you repeat that? And then she says, by the way, just so you know, your email will be shut off by tonight. And I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, but it is terrifying. So I'm standing there. I've got, this sample in one hand and a soon to be irrelevant work phone in the other. And I just remember staring at the FedEx man like, oh, well, I don't know what to do next. Yes, I do. Let's mail this sample, and we got to run home and get everything I can possibly data mine from my computer, my contacts, my accomplishments, my meetings, all of those things in a matter of hours. So I did. So I zipped home and I scoured my email and I saved my essential data as fast as I could. And I wondered, am I really valuable? Like this is bizarre. Lightning has now struck 3 times. This is my 3rd layoff. So, you guys, put a 3 in the comments if you have had this experience. If you've been laid off multiple times, it is a real serious hit to the confidence. So I asked myself, what value do I really add here? And how can I set up myself for opportunities when these things keep occurring? And since we're just meeting today, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I come from working in recruiting, a successful sales career, successful marketing career, and also a background in journalism. I have a journalism degree from one of the top schools, Ohio University. Go Cats. And I thought to myself, Claire, you've got all this great experience. Thank you. I'm seeing some 3s in the comments. Thank you, guys. And you have to be able to come up with some kind of plan, because turns out this is just how the market works. This is just how the industry can be volatile sometimes. And so what can I do to set myself up and set myself apart so that when these inevitable circumstances do happen, I can keep moving and keep driving my career? So I realized all of these bits of experience that I have one common theme that can lend themselves to all of us moving forward and taking hold of the direction of our career. And it's this: we can learn how to position ourselves as the solution. So we can learn how to position ourselves as the solution. And I think that there has been a real change in the traditional sense of a resume being a chronological history of your career. And it's moving toward, we're starting to get more comfortable with the idea that really what a resume is intended to do is sell your skills and how you are uniquely valuable to an organization. So here's what I want you to think about today. I want you to think about when you are positioning yourself for a role that you want. And many of us here, I can see, is there anybody here in the audience who's trying to pivot to a new industry, or you want to try something new, or perhaps you have a couple different specialties that you have in your career that you would nurture? Maybe you're in nursing, but you're also a photographer. So do you have multiple different specialties? So what I ask you today is, what challenge is the company or the role that you want to enter into facing, and how are you that company's unique solution? And so this is all what we're going to talk about today, where it's all about developing your unique value proposition. And if you guys are on board with this, I want to do this with you live, because there is two things I can teach you today that will immediately transform the effectiveness of your resume. And you can take this with you starting today, tomorrow, Monday, and start applying, and you will know that it will have a greater impact for you. So that said, let's get started. Let's talk about some common things I see come across my desk on resumes that I would say need to change. So typically, I'll see resumes that come across and they are a little bit too long, so longer than 2 pages. They can be difficult to read. They can have a ton of descriptive language and list every position you've ever held, but be lacking a little bit in metrics. So it takes a little bit of finessing to transition to this new way of thinking about resumes, where really you are leading with the most impactful, the most hard-hitting information first. And you've got to be okay with the fact that not everything makes the resume. So let's get into it. So first, here are some things you're going to want to gather. So write these things down. You're going to want to do some company and industry research. So before you can get going, you have to know where you want to go. Find some jobs that really interest you. Find some roles that you'd love to see yourselves in, and jot them down and keep them in a file, like a brag file or something on your computer, so that you know what you are positioning yourself for. Second, start paying attention to keywords and job postings. So specifically for those of us who are wanting to pivot into a new career, make sure that you're paying attention to the words, the vernacular of the industry that you're interested in, so that when you are applying it to your experience, the reader who's coming from that industry can easily relate and grab onto those terms. Most importantly, start gathering and refining your metrics. So anything that you can measure is critical. So qualitative is always a good way to start. You can describe how you move the needle in that way. But when it comes to a snapshot, or when it comes to things that are really going to change the feeling about you and immediately paint this picture of how you make them, the change in the company and what you bring, metrics speak louder than words every time. So you want to make sure you do them well. Also, make sure that you have your awards and your certifications handy so that you can reference those toward the bottom of your resume as well, and include your education information as it applies. So let's talk about what a really good resume looks like. A really good resume has an outstanding opening statement, and this is what we're going to work on today. So I'm going to read you a couple of my favorites. So recently I was working with a woman and she's transitioning into the DEI space, which for those of you who haven't heard of that, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And here is her opening statement. Intercultural DEI expert shapes world-class organizations from the inside out through strategic business analysis, high-impact programs, and trusted change management. Do you see how that's different than someone who's coming in at the top of their resume, either not having an objective or saying something more along the lines of industry professional, 15 years in this industry, looking for opportunities, and is a team player, right? There's a different gravity when you're starting and you're speaking from your values first. So I'm going to teach you right now how to craft an outstanding opening statement. And some folks call these executive summaries, objective statements. So not to get hung up on the vernacular there, but I'm going to show you exactly how you can craft this yourself. And if this doesn't show backwards, we will use it. Oh, excellent. Okay. So here's what you do. Okay, you guys ready? Put a 1 in the comments if you're ready to add this to the top. This is going to really move your resume into the I'm going to read the whole thing pile. So first, you're going to write down today, right now, get your pen ready. I am a, and include, I'm going to jump over there we go. I am a, and include an adjective and your expertise. Then, who, the results that you get on your best day. When you are really knocking it out of the park in business, what are the results that you're getting? What does that look like when you're succeeding? And finally, for whom and in response to what challenge, okay? Can you guys see this? It's a little campy, but I thought it would be more fun. So I am an adjective in your expertise, who, the results you get on your best day, and for whom and in response to what challenge. Now, traditionally for a resume, you will remove the I am and likely the who. So wordsmith it so that it makes grammatical sense. But you can see that here, instead of saying, I've got 50 years in the industrial experience and I'm searching for X, what you're doing is you are answering the internal question that the hiring manager has, which is, how do you help me? And how do you solve my problems? So I would love to see some of these in the comments if you guys would like to include them down there, and we can kind of workshop this thing. I've got another one that I really love. It's I was working with a gentleman last week. He's in sales. He does global sales and marketing, and he is a people first director that establishes companies as world-class industry leaders by delivering individualized coaching, aggressively pursuing growth opportunities, and implementing winning sales strategies. So if you're hearing these terms and you're feeling like they're braggadocious, or you're a little bit afraid to say these things because you don't want to come off as, not humble or something like that, I want you to think about this. This document is the only opportunity that you have, unless you're meeting somebody face-to-face or on Zoom, to sell your value as the solution to a company. So use it. Use that strong language. Make sure that it's truthful. We always want to make sure that we're not enhancing things that aren't true. But I can tell you that if you dig deep and if you go back through your experience and ask yourself how you were successful in these different roles, it's going to come to light, and you will realize that you have a unique value proposition. For example, if somebody opened up a company, my company is named Traction Resume, but if somebody opened up Traction Resume, and they offered all of the services that I do. They would never really do it exactly the way that I do it. They would never really match my exact energy. So that's why you know that you have unique value, whether you have been laid off multiple times or not at all. Don't be discouraged, because you have unique value to bring to the job, to your career, and to companies. And frankly, if companies had it all figured out, they would all be Apple, and they wouldn't need employees in the first place. So there are real needs and real questions that these hiring managers need to satisfy, and you guys can be the key to the lock. So I'm going to show you how. So there's another exercise I'd like you to do. If you've got your resume out, if you're ready for number 2, by the way, put a number 2 in the comments so I can make sure that you guys are ready to add this next piece to your resume. Today, right now, we're going to talk about how to transform your statements into results-oriented value statements. So I see some number 1s in there. That's great. Okay, so here's the next thing I want to encourage you to do. Look at your resume content. Clifford, thank you for the 2. Hey, Fran. Here's the next thing I want you guys to do. Look at the content on your document and read one of the statements that's underneath one of the roles that you have listed. And I want you to add 2 words at the end. These are very powerful. The 2 words at the end are resulting in. So many times we get caught up with, we're applying for a new job and we want to describe everything that we did in this role so they know the all-encompassing job that we've done, because it is, let's face it, work is so much more, your job is so much more than could ever be put on one single resume. So the key is, which of the pieces of your role move the needle and will get you into the next position? So look at your content, and when you have your accomplishments listed, I want you to read your statement and add resulting in to the end of it. Now, this can be used all over the resume, frankly, but this is a really powerful area when it comes to your accomplishments. So when you did this activity, did it result in saving money for the company? Did it result in maximizing the efficiency for a team? Did it result in year-over-year increases in sales, or perhaps streamlining a hairball of strategy that needed to be streamlined? So there are a lot of things that you bring to the equation, and if you add resulting in, it will start to change your mindset, and you'll start talking more and explaining more about the value that you're bringing. Okay, so how is that working for you guys? Yes, I see a question from Christopher Dixon. Thank you for sharing. So yes, should you include a summary? I tend to avoid large text, boxes of text on a resume. The reason why is I don't believe that they encourage the reader to really stay on the page and to go through the whole thing, because it's a big chunk of text and sometimes the eye just doesn't want to deal with that. So I would recommend that instead of a summary, maybe just consider it 1 to potentially 3 statements at the top. So your value statement, and then maybe you can add 2 more statements to that. And that can sort of set the tone for what the common factor throughout your roles brought you success. So if you look, ideally, if you're looking back through your roles on your resume, there is a common thread among all of the accomplishments that you have that made you uniquely successful. And that's what I want you to find. Okay, so we have gone through the value statement. We have gone through, oh, I'm so glad. Thank you, Nancy. We've gone through how to reposition your description so that you're adding resulting in at the end. Just to clarify, you don't necessarily have to keep resulting in within the statement. You can reword it however you want, but it's just to get you thinking about how the best way might be to represent how you move the needle at the company. It's not necessarily what you were doing, but the result you had because of it. Okay, so let's move on to cover letters. And I have to chuckle a little bit because I hear commonly from from my clients and from people on LinkedIn that cover letters are maybe not their favorite thing to do. And in fact, they feel obsolete. But I beg to differ, and here is why. So the resume, your resume is the star of the show, right? That's where you have your most impactful, hard-hitting pieces of your career that have moved the needle. The cover letter is got to be in line with that resume. It's got to be branded the same as that resume. But here you get to show a little bit more personality, and you get to tell the hiring manager what to do. So, you know, if you've gone out and seen any kind of sales message out on LinkedIn, out in the world, there is typically a theme to whatever they're selling, and then there's a call to action. And the call to action is what sets the cover letter so apart from the resume. So the resume is your supporting document. You have your main theme, and all of the roles and all of the specifics underneath are supporting that main theme of how you make a difference and how you are the solution to the problem. So now when we're talking about a cover letter, a great cover letter starts with opening with that similar value statement. So again, you want to consider what challenges a company or a hiring manager is facing and how you would uniquely solve those challenges and make their life easier. That's going to go right at the top of the text. Then you want to make sure that you're clear, you're concise throughout. You'll want to keep it to 2, maybe 3 paragraphs, but no more than that. This has got to be a quick, to the point, here's my value, and then I'm going to sell why I am the solution to you. Then you're going to focus on your measurable accomplishments again. So what you can actually do is you can go back to your resume, snag a couple of those measurable accomplishments, and actually put them in the cover letter. That's my favorite way to not only tie the two together, but to make sure that your cover letter, it packs a big punch. So in both instances, in both documents, you are listing just exactly the results they can anticipate by working with you. So it would look something like this. You've got your date at the top, you have your address and your to. Do your very best to find the name of the hiring manager, or at least somebody within the hiring department, maybe even the manager of the department you want to work in, so that you're addressing it to somebody specific. Then you're going to introduce your value proposition. Next, I want to encourage you to tell the company, tell this hiring manager, why on earth you want to work there. So for example, you know, I resonate deeply with the vision and the mission of your company because XYZ. And it is because of this that I am applying today for this role at your company. That's very specific. And the response that my clients receive from very specific cover letters is outstanding. So then you'll want to include those couple of metrics that we talked about. So the few that you're going to grab from your resume, put those in there. And finally, this is the biggie. Here's where you want to include your call to action. And you'll want to be very specific. So what does a call to action, exactly look like? So for example, you can say, when is a good time next week where we can get on a Zoom call for 15 minutes and I can learn more about the needs of your company? Or if it's a position where you might be required to be on site, you could say something to the effect of, can we schedule a meeting next week where I can take a quick walkthrough of your facility? Or do you have 15 minutes on the phone where I can share a few ideas I have for you in your department? That's immediately giving value right there. And that kind of call to action is very powerful. And the other half of it is, you can reach me at this number and this email. So you'll want to be very specific. Tell them exactly what you want them to do and when and how. And you will be shocked at the reception you have from people who are just following your advice, following your orders of what you'd like them to do. Always thank them. Make sure that you don't have any copy errors or misspellings. Make sure that your email is, and your voicemail isn't full and it can accept phone calls and can accept voicemails. That's another thing that happens occasionally. But that's what a really great cover letter looks like. So I know we've got about 15 minutes left. So I wanted to run through one final little exercise. If you guys will be interested, throw 3 in the comments for me if you guys are ready. These are some accomplishment building prompts. I highly encourage you to write them down. These are going to be something I'll include later, Brenda, if you'd like. I can put them in as sort of a freebie or a worksheet that can go out later on after this broadcast. But these are some prompts that will help you, thank you, Sharon, to help you recall measurable accomplishments to list under each of your positions. So we sort of talked about the difference between qualitative and quantitative. So here are some, if you're struggling with how to quantify your experience, here are some prompts that could help you. What are your growth numbers? Weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly? That's a pretty obvious one. You can also think of it as, how did you decrease or increase time or budget or profits? How were you ranked among peers? How did you fulfill or exceed quota? Thank you, Deanna. Was someone able to achieve in a measurable way due to your specific efforts? So all of these things can be quantified. So if you're not, in direct sales and getting ranked and quotas and measured, it doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity for quantitative metrics. Quite the opposite. You definitely do. It's all about being creative and looking at your experience and seeing how you can move the needle and how you have, and putting a number to it. It's going to really help create that vision in your hiring manager's mind for what the experience working with you will be like and what they can anticipate over the next year after you sign your contract. So I'm looking down here at the comment. Are there any questions that I've missed here? Keywords. Oh yes, this is a great point. So another way, especially for my folks here who are pivoting industries, and we talked a little bit about getting to understand the vernacular of the new industry that you're interested in. Do pay attention to the keywords in the job search. In fact, I highly recommend that if you have a job posting for something that you really do want to go after, if you've got a job that you want, take that job posting, print it out, put it on your desk, and grab a highlighter and start highlighting certain key terms and certain phrasing that you feel, one that you see within the job posting and you feel that resonate with experience that you have. And if you do this, you can actually take those terms and you can put them in your resume. You weave that into your resume. So it's going to do 2 things for you. 1, it's going to increase your effectiveness within the ATS system. And 2, it's going to make you immediately relevant to a hiring manager who's reading your resume, and they are already in that field. They will already be associating with those terms. So that's a terrific point. Thank you so much. Any other so at this point, if you all would be interested, I'd be happy to open it up to questions. I know that was a little bit of a lot of information and hopefully some valuable exercises for everybody.
This has been awesome. And we kind of pivoted from one network to another. We're kind of spinning around. The good thing is in the playback, everything that's on StreamYard has been one continuous video, so we haven't disrupted anything. But I love our audience because they moved quickly from LinkedIn to YouTube, and then some folks went over to Facebook. And then I restarted the stream on LinkedIn. So we did get some folks on there. We just missed a little bit in the beginning. But I have been seeing some questions that are coming in here. And one was regarding, you were talking about the cover letter, and I saw somebody ask the question, what if you can't find the person's name? Then what should you put in that cover letter?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of times folks will put in to whom it may concern. I like to be a little bit more tailored than that. And I find that tailoring both of these documents make them really powerful. So you could say something to the effect of, the team at, Agendia, or whatever the company's name is, or something a little more specific to the company or even the department that you're going to, or that you're going after. That's what I would recommend.
Okay. And I think you answered this question already, but I'll just ask it again. A summary statement. And I want to ask this, when we first graduated from college, we were taught by the career people in college to put an objective statement at the top of our resume. And there may be some people watching this that say, well, I was told to put an objective statement on there, Claire. So what's your response? Should we, and I'll add on to Christopher's statement, should we include a summary at the top of the resume, and why?
You certainly can. I say that a resume is like a fingerprint. They're all unique to ourselves. But when I look at two resumes side by side, one that is full of text, and it's really big blocks of text and chunks and paragraphs, that doesn't jump off the page, and it's not as easily digestible by the reader as one that's smaller, maybe more, maybe a graph on there, maybe a positioning statement at the top, and then jumping right into your skill set. So it is up to you. I would say that if you want to include a summary statement at the top, or an objective, or what we were chatting about today, the value proposition statement, I would just try and keep it less than at least three or less than 3 sentences. That way you're really forcing yourself to distill all of the value that you provide and all of your experience down to a very specific skill set that makes you successful. And 2, it's not going to lose your reader because you don't have a really long piece of text at the top of your document. Great question.
Good question. Thank you for asking. I'm sure other people are running the same thing. So here's one from Steve, and he's saying, what if the job you performed didn't have any hard metrics? Like, what if it was creating marketing proposals? So what are your thoughts there? What do you put on your resume, Claire?
I love this question, and thank you so much, Steve, because I get it a lot. I work with individuals from all industries, and this is a very common one. So here I would say, if you don't have obvious metrics or obvious statistics that are coming from the company to you, get creative and make your own. And what I mean is, you can go, you can take this in many directions. You can talk about how many clients you received and converted in a year. If you're creating marketing proposals, you can talk about how quickly they were received by clients, and how many you created in a year. Like, it's really an area where you can look at your experience, and even though you're not getting top-down statistics, you can create these numbers for yourself. So great question. I think it comes down to a little bit of creativity. There are other pieces that you can add to a resume that are impactful, like numbers that aren't numbers. One that I see commonly is testimonials. So a lot of times with my clients, we will add an actual testimonial from someone who has worked with them to give a little more personality and a third person account right there on the page. So you can use that to your advantage. You can talk about the number of people on a team that you were leading or you were orchestrating to get these marketing proposals done. You can talk about you perhaps having a time constraint on putting a proposal together, and how quickly you were able to get that underway, or maybe exceed or do it quicker than was expected. Or you can even talk about what kind of results your client received based on following the proposal that you put together. So I hope you see there's so many facets of this diamond. Like, there's lots of different ways that you can quantify your experience. And Brenda, if you'd like, I would be happy to send this accomplishment writing prompt to you, so that afterward everyone can have some of these prompts for themselves to work on it.
And I just put mine up on screen here because I used to work in a marketing role where that's what I did. I just did proposals. So this is my statement. And if you like, I think it was Steve who just asked that question. If you like it, feel free to borrow this and use it. Made proposals sing, which resulted in new business for the company. And where I got that language, I actually referred back to the job description. So when I originally applied for the job at this organization, one of the goals was, it said responsibilities will include making proposals sing to result in new business. I mean, I went back to the job description and I used that language, and I put it's on my LinkedIn. So if you want to borrow that language, that's where you pull it from there. I did see a couple of questions in here, Claire, and we've got about 5 minutes left here. So what I want to do actually right now is let me just bring in our next two guests because they're in our virtual waiting room. Catherine and Vincent, how are you guys doing today? And we're covering your head, Vincent. Hold on, let me grab this.
Here, I'll just stand a little bit higher.
You have to do
Vincent.
You have to do the Wilson from Home Improvement where you have to lean over the fence a little bit. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that show. I probably am aging myself because I don't think that show's on, maybe even in reruns anymore. But it was a show where the name.
I know Wilson.
You know what I'm talking. Vincent, do you know
Yes.
Home Improvement or no?
I absolutely do. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like,
There's a guy with the neighbor, you have the fence.
Yes. So so we're just finishing up here, and then we'll bring in Catherine and Vincent in just a moment or two here. So I saw a question about ATS, and I want to just scroll through that. And I think the person's question was regarding cover letters, and it said ATS systems don't like cover letters. So what are your thoughts on, making your resume and cover letter ATS compliant, Claire?
I think that's such a big conversation. What I would say is stick to the most traditional formatting you can within Word document. One trick that I use for my clients is I actually convert their resume. I'm just going to give you guys everything here today. Okay, I'm not holding back. We're about results today. So you can actually translate your or save your file as a text file. And a lot of times that can be picked up easier in the ATS system. It's not as pretty, but all of the information's in there despite the formatting, including any kind of graph you have, any kind of graphic you have, that'll all come across. So yeah, I mean, it's all really dependent. I will say that the majority of my clients do get their resumes in the door after they have networked and made that solid connection through like the hidden job market, which I know is a totally different conversation. But a lot of these things as well, you guys, and I saw a question earlier as well that talked about, would I recommend columns and things of that nature? There are some really terrific templates on Pinterest. You guys can Google, you can grab some even in Microsoft Word. So there are a lot of different templates you guys can use and really maximize. But if you can grab hold of that language, and if you can use the things that you see in the job description and apply it to your value, that's going to move your needle. That's going to move you forward the most. And if you guys are interested, I saw a couple people asking how they can work with me. Please follow me on LinkedIn. I'm at Traction Resume, TRACTION Resume, or I'm at Claire M. Davis. And I'm still accepting connections and followers as well, whatever you would like to do, and be happy to support you guys in your job search. In the meantime, I have some free resources for you. If you go to tractionresume.com, you can get my full list of how to write everything you need to know to write a killer resume, all of the things that you'll want to gather, as well as some action words that you can incorporate as well. So I'm happy to, thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, so let's get you noticed. So if you scroll down a little bit on that page, there are a couple of free downloadable PDFs to help you guys just get started right there.
Oh, these are great. And Claire, I'll be including these in the email that I send out to folks who, if you did pre-register for this event and you said, yes, it's okay for the event planner, that's me, to have email address, I'll include that for you. And if there's anybody who's watching late who didn't, indicate that it was okay for me to email you, you do need to go, and I just set up a website. It's mellermarketing.com/LIL subscribe, like Lil subscribe. It stands for LinkedIn Live subscribe. So if you're watching this LinkedIn Live-a-thon today, and you want to get links to all the resources that Claire was sharing with you today, as well as the playback, if you got that disruption thing that happened, it'll be the full session from start to finish of Claire's session today. Go to that web link. And I appreciate that you are open to new invitations on LinkedIn, Claire. I'm going to go back to your profile just for a second here. So for those folks that are watching, remember, you guys, I've been telling you this all along, when you go to their profiles, when you click on connect, you always want to add a note. And in this case, tell Claire that you watched her on the broadcast today. And if there's something particularly helpful that you learned, mention that as well. Claire, thank you so much. This went by quickly. It was such a great session, though. Appreciate it.
I know. Is anybody else spinning? That was great. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for engaging with me too. It really does help when you're live to know you're there and listening and as excited as I am. So I really appreciate it.
Don't you miss the days of presenting in person where you could like wave at the audience and like throw gifts to the people and we miss
Truly. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. And I know you're going to stay in probably the live stream. So if we didn't get to your question, guys, I know Claire will be going out there. So continue to add your questions and comments. And thank you so much, Claire. I'll excuse you, and then we'll move on to Catherine and Vincent here next. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much, Brenda.